So it looks like the first question is, what was the scariest thing you experienced during the sitting, and what would you do to pass the time? What would you do to pass the time?
What do you pass the test?
Which one?
Just any other? Oh,
Yeah, it goes right there.
oh, okay. What was the scariest?
Yes.
The scariest thing you experienced during the summer?
Well, I guess the scariest thing that I remember is when I was involved with the sanitation, the garbage truck, when they came out with the guns. But before that, just being involved in the city movement with Miss Looper when we were younger, I was never afraid. I was just excited to be a part of it. Ms. Looper said we were going to make a change. And that's what all of us were excited to do. And to be a part of anything that Ms. Looper wanted us to be a part of. She was such a great teacher that we were always up for the challenge of whatever she suggested. So I was only frightened later on in life.
I wish I could say the same. I was picketing at Animal's cafeteria. And a man threw a chimpanzee on me. I couldn't figure out how he decided to throw that chimpanzee on me because I was one of the smallest kids out there. That was scary to me. Another scary moment in my life was by my mom being the advisor of the youth council. That meant I didn't miss any sit-ins. I don't know to this day much about Saturday morning cartoons or anything else because I missed all that as a child. But we were coming home from a freedom rally. And these men in a pickup truck followed us. My mother was a driver, she could drive. She thought she could drive. Anyway, she said to my brother Calvin and I, we were on two in the car, that these men were following us, and I'm not going home. I'm not going to take you home. But instead of taking you home, I'm going to turn the corner on Northeast 14th, and you're going to the Posey's house. Mr. Posey was Barbara Posey, who was on the film as a spokesperson for the youth council. And her father was about 9 feet tall. No, not really, but he was a big man. She said, when I turn that corner, I want you and Calvin to run as fast as you can and holler and scream for them to open the door to let you in. I said, no, Mama, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to leave you alone. She said, what did I say? I said, okay. So when she turned that corner, she drove up on that yard, and my brother and I ran and started knocking on that door and hollering and screaming. And when my mother saw that we had made it inside that house, she took off. Now, why is that scary to me? Because I always say to myself, what if? What if something would have happened to my mom there? I would never see her again. What if? And that's the thought that I live with to this day.
I guess the scariest part of my experience in the process was the first time I showed up at the Calvary Baptist Church, and I was the only white man there. And so we started downtown, we walked from Calvary, which was Fort Walmart, was it? find out, I turned my back on myself. But that was the scariest part, realizing I was all by my lonesome among this city life.
I tell people I was scared of Clara Cooper. First of all, she was my teacher at Dungy School. And that meant I had her every day. And on Saturdays when we had these sittings, we really didn't know we were to be afraid, to be honest with you. It's not like we were just one person, many of us. So we didn't think about fear when we were participating. We all knew to be obedient to the instructions we received from Clara Luper. If you were not going to be obedient, you could not participate in the sittings. And so when I tell people I was more afraid of Clara Luper than the sitting movement, I mean I was. But the other question was, what did we do for pastime? Well, many times we would sing, like you saw in the film, but we really did what we were supposed to do. In many cases, we were to be quiet. We did not have chat going on because we had a mission and we were to pay attention. You were not spending your time having little side jokes or little side conversations. You understood that you had a mission. So you were not utilizing your time, or you really didn't have leisure time because we were there thinking, well, suppose they did feed us. We didn't have any money to pay for the food. And we tell people that, but the truth is, our goal was to integrate the facility that day. We went every day, every time, hoping that maybe that one time, that particular restaurant would integrate. So we didn't have what's called pastime or anything to do pastime, but I can tell you we did sing our freedom songs, or we were quiet, like we were supposed to be.
So another question, does it worry you that current attacks on teachers and the attempts to take politics out of schools are designed to prevent moments like sit-ins from happening again?
It absolutely worries me. I can't believe that in this day and time, after all these many years, it seems as if we're going backwards. That everything is pointing in that direction. That the whole political scene seems to be, what can we do to move things backwards? So yes, that really upsets me.
What I can't understand is, how in the world do you think that we're going to know about each other if we don't know our history? It's so important that you know your neighbor's history, or your friend's history, and you can better relate. But you want to take it out of the classroom, you want to take it out everywhere. But I'm going to tell you something. That's a tragedy within itself. A tragedy in our educational system. Because the beauty of America lies in the diversity of its people.
I want to jump in because I'm a retired educator. I taught school. I was a high school principal for about 20 years. When I retired, I had 37 years in education. And to think that teachers would indoctrinate students to feel in theory It just did not happen when I was in education. I don't think it would happen today. We are creating problems that we don't have and we didn't have. And when you think about not knowing history, you are getting ready to repeat some history, and you don't want to repeat some of the history we've had. So it's important, and especially to us as educators, it's important for us to teach history. It's history, you can't erase it. If it happened, it happened. But one thing I know, we become better people once you know some history. And if you know the history that created problems, you won't repeat that history. It's important that you as young people tell the story. If we don't tell it, who will tell it? You can't tear it out of a history book or the history books. History is history, and we've got to share our history. Nothing wrong with that. It wasn't anything wrong with it back then. There's nothing wrong with it today. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
To what Joyce just said, what gets me is when I hear people say, that might hurt their feelings. Well, how in the hell do you think we feel?
So let me jump in here and follow up on Joy's story. I think this is precious. Tell me about the time that you did not get thrown in jail.
Oh.
I'm one of the ones that didn't get arrested.
Tell me
But the truth of it wasn't that I didn't want to. But while we were picketing, I needed to go to the restroom. And we couldn't go to the restroom where we were picketing, so Miss Luther, they told us where to go. When I got back, everybody had gone to jail. And as kids were like, and I had my cousin with me, I said, where is everybody? And somebody told us they took them to jail. I said, where is jail? Well, we were downtown, so somebody told us how to get to jail. We walked to jail, walked in the door, told them, we were with them. You need to arrest us. Policeman said, we can't arrest you. I said, why? We were with them. He said, because we didn't see you. And I'm like, I'm telling you, we were there. But anyway, I didn't get arrested. And that was one opportunity I was really looking forward to.
I just want to add to Joyce's story is the fact that I did get the opportunity to go to jail. and I know people are probably wondering, what in the world? But when you're young and you're part of a group and we're all excited about just being a part of that group, if they were going to take everybody to jail, we wanted to all be a part of it. So I got a chance to go to jail. But of course, my mother was really adamant when I first begged to be a part of Miss Luper's youth, the NAACP youth group, and be a part of the sit-in movement. She said, no, you can't go because somebody might get hurt. And yeah, I don't want you going to jail. And so I cried and carried on. And my daddy said, let that girl go because you know Miss Luper is going to watch out for those kids, and those kids love Miss Luper. And so I got a chance to participate in the sit-in movement. But just the idea of going to jail was exciting because you were doing it with your friends. and you have something to talk about, unlike Joyce, who didn't make it today.
But she found relief.
Right.
But Joyce, you told your mother a story. You told her. You
Yes,
didn't
I
tell
did.
the rest of this story.
Yes, I did. My mother saw on the news where they had taken some kids to jail during one of the sittings. And so when I got home, she said, Joycey, I was looking at television and they took some kids to jail. You weren't a part of that, were you? And I said, no. No, ma'am, not me. But I couldn't hardly wait to talk it over with all my buddies. We had gone to jail. Yeah.
So this question is, what are the most pressing civil rights issues or inequalities facing the African American community today? What are some of the most pressing civil rights issues or inequality issues facing the African American community today?
There's so many. The voting rights. That's one of the
Prisoner reform.
prisoner.
It hasn't changed.
No.
It's as old as time itself.
Yes.
And
See, when,
it's not an African American problem. It's
It's
our
American.
problem.
and see what has happened, after we got a black president, something happened here in America. It seemed like they blew the roof off. But I wish I knew the answer to it. The problems that we have today are no different than the problems that we had yesterday. And that's why we keep saying we can't go back to a segregated society, to a have and have nots, to you discriminating against me because of my color of my skin or my socioeconomic status. We're not going back. And whoever has it in their minds that they're gonna take us back, they have the wrong idea. Everybody speak your way.
And also, as I said on the film, in the film, there are other issues, like economic issues and of course job issues and all of that. One thing that happened back when we were picketing, you had laws that told us we had to segregate. You don't have those laws today, but you do have some practices that are taking place. And when you see that some of those same attitudes still exist, you don't have a law, but you have some attitudes. And we're still having to work to change attitudes, not only about African Americans, but about all races of people. And that's what's so sad about it. And I like what the man said. Get to know people as individuals and not as races. And when you know me as a person, the race is secondary. You know me as Joyce. And when you know me as Joyce, if I have some characteristics that you don't like, it's not because I'm black, it's because I don't like the way you behave. But there are still those who will look at me and make some assumptions about me, and they don't know me because of the color of my skin. And there's something wrong with that picture. It was wrong then, and it's wrong today. If you are approaching anybody and you're looking at their race first, stop and think about your heart, because then you're not looking at the person as a person. You're looking at them as a race. But look at me as a human being, and the civil rights will take care of itself.
You know, in the 60s, they had on the white robes and the white hoodies representing the KKK. Then now, they're taking the hoods off and folding up the white sheets. We have to know, we have to stand up against injustice. I don't care who it is. When we see people not being treated equally, when we see injustice on any hand, and we remain silent, we are as responsible as the people that are doing the segregation.
Where can a student start to be active in their community, and how can that same student safely protest?
How can a student?
Where can a student start to be active in their community, and how can they safely protest?
How can they protest?
Yeah, how can they start to be active in their community, and also at the same time, how can they safely protest when being
Oh,
active?
safely protest. We're living in a dangerous time now. I would hate to think back then that we had to think about whether somebody had a gun while we were protesting. Those kind of thoughts were not in our minds. But today, those are some thoughts you have to address. Because you have those who are so adamant about what they believe, right or wrong, until they're willing to create violence for that reason. In your community, it doesn't take everybody to form a group to protest. If something is wrong, there are those who will join you in the effort to strategize. We didn't just go out there and protest. We knew we had a goal. Our goal was to integrate not only the restaurants, but the recreation facilities. If you lived in Oklahoma City, we had Wedgewood Park, you had Spring Lake Park, you had the zoo. There were other things that needed to be integrated. But you have to organize yourself in a way so that you know what your mission is. And in our case, we knew violence could not be part of that mission. And you have to make sure that your mission is not to create violence in trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. We will tell you, we will never recommend violence to accomplish something. It doesn't play in our instruction book.
I would say to get involved, make sure that you're registered to vote. And then get off the behind and go vote. And everybody can do it. If one person would contact 10 other people, then we could change this country into what we wanted it to believe. It's up to us. And you are young enough and have the energy enough that you can change this whole world. And I'm certain about that.
When you're young, you can walk. We did the reenactment for the 64th anniversary, and we decided we can't walk like we did way back then. So we have to depend on the younger generation to continue to move forward. We may not can walk, we can do other things, but we do want to pass the torch on to young people. And you know what the issues are. We don't have to tell you what the issues are. And you know what to do about the issues, and just do it.
Let me make an observation. Many of, well, I know all these folks at the front table don't know this, I used to be manager of the Chamber of Commerce here in Chickasha. We began, when I took over as chamber manager way back in the early 60s, with the retreat. We got off by ourselves and we said, what do we want to be when we grow up? Literally as a community. So maybe something like that might be a way to start within the campus here. What do you want this community, your community, not that you live here, but your associates, what do you want this community to be like when you grow up, associates?
Was there a particular moment during the protest that y'all realized that what y'all were doing was affecting some change?
When they integrated cats, we knew we would make a change. I was not one of the original, of course, Merle was one of the original 13, but when cats integrated, we knew it could take place. Now, we were kids then, but again, when you know you couldn't do something and now you can do something because you did it the right way, then it was just a matter of going after cats, other segregated restaurants to make a difference. And that's what we did.
And cats change within a week.
And not only here, they change all over the United States
All of their change.
because of us sitting down in Oklahoma City. 13 people started.
And that was August 1958. That was the first city in Oklahoma City. And like you see on the film, Greensboro gets a lot of the credit. But we are trying to change so they will know that the first city, at least one of the first, took place in Oklahoma City.
The longest peaceful protest without violence in the history of the United States.
That's right.
So this one is not a question, but it's a comment directed to all of you guys. It says, thank you all for what you have done for civil rights. You've inspired me to keep fighting when society is trying to move backwards.
Thank you.
So just out of curiosity, what were y'all's ages during the protest? And was it like a strength in numbers thing that like inspired y'all to do these at such a young age?
No, I'm speaking for myself. I would say it was my teacher, Ms. Luber. Of course, I was age 13 at the time. I was not a part of the original 13 group 13 people that started sitting. I followed after and became actively involved with the NAACP youth group. And Ms. Luber was my school teacher, and so I was very involved. But yeah. Yes, if you'd like me to. Junior wanted me to share with you the fact that I not only became a part of Ms. Luper's class in the nonviolent sit-in movement, I eventually became part of the beginning of the Black Panthers group out of Oakland, California. I need to say right up front that the Black Panther group was not a terrorist group. It was a group that was involved with the community and trying to correct some of the wrongs and trying to help the community with health issues, food issues, housing issues, segregation issues. I kind of fell into being a part of the Black Panthers. I grew up in Oklahoma City the majority of my life, but my mother and father had divorced, and so my stepfather was the person that was with me the majority of my childhood. My real father lived in Oakland and Fresno, California, and that's where he was from. And so it reached a point in my childhood that my father would, every couple of years, call for my sister and I to catch the train to go to California to spend some time with him. And when I graduated from Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, my father said, I want you to go to college in California. And so off I went to Oakland, and where my father lived across the street from a young man that became a very active part of the Black Panthers. My neighbor was Bobby Seale. Bobby Seale's father was in the service with my father. Because I was from Oklahoma, my father called Bobby and asked his father to make sure that he walked me with me to watch out for me, to protect me, because I was from Oklahoma, so of course I was too naive to be able to be safe in a city like Oakland. But what's interesting is I attended Merritt College, and Merritt College was a junior college approximately 3 blocks from where I lived in Oakland. And so Bobby is just a couple of years older than I am. And so Bobby walked with me 3 blocks up the street to Merritt campus. They started working in the community by feeding the kids breakfast, and so I became a part of that group. They would sit in the courtyard at the college and think of different things that they could do to help in the community. I became a part of the group that fed the kids in the morning for them to go to school, a part of the tutoring group after school, and then they started bringing in doctors and nurses from Black doctors and nurses for the community to get some kind of health care. And so that started. That's how I got involved with the Black Panthers. When they finally decided to name it the Black Panthers, they got the little berets and the leather jackets. Well, that was just about the time they decided that the laws were, that we were having too many incidents in the community where the law enforcement was misusing Black males, kind of like it is today. So with Huey and Bobby taking the time to basically train us and teach us about our rights. And according to Oakland's law at that time, well, California law, it was okay, it was legal for you to carry a weapon for protection. And so Huey was taking law classes, and so Bobby and Huey, once they started the group, decided to go to, I think it was to the state capital, Sacramento, yes. They went to Sacramento to the state capital, and they all packed guns to let everybody know that we will be protecting our community. That's when my father saw it on the news, in the newspapers, and saw it on television, and he thought I was doing community work, which I was doing. And my father got all upset, was really angry at Bobby, told him he couldn't believe that he got me in trouble when it came out on television. And they were talking about carrying guns, and my father said, well, he's likely to get you killed. But then my father decided I needed to go back to Oklahoma. you're gonna get killed out here running around with Huey Newton and Bobby Seals. But they were in the midst of expanding all over the United States. And like I said, the whole program was about helping the community. That's how it started. And then they got a bad rap, and it ended not the way we had planned. But I came back to Oklahoma, and guess what? Got involved with some other members of the Black Panther group that grew up right here in Oklahoma. Matter of fact, one of the gentlemen, the one that was sitting next to me on the film, he was active part of the Black Panther group also. And we all became friends for a very long time and tried to do some of the same things here in Oklahoma. So that was my beginning and ending of the Black Panther group.
I wanted to share with you the NAACP Youth Council. Although we participated in the sit-in movement, that organization developed us to be leaders, to be good citizens, and we did so many things within the organization, which included the cities. But we had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., and hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. deliver, not by TV, not by radio, but we were able to witness him delivering the I Have a Dream speech. At that time, it wasn't called I Have a Dream. He was the keynote speaker for the March on Washington. And I tell people, that impacted my life for life. Because at that time, you were in Oklahoma dealing with those segregated issues. But when you went to Washington, D.C., and saw the thousands of people gathered there, dealing with the same issues we were dealing with, and that was an influence in my life to continue, because one thing, if it's happening here and it's happening all over the United States, maybe all of us together can make a change. And that's the way I see it here. If things are happening here in Oklahoma, here in Chickasha, it doesn't matter where you live, you can make a difference. I just want to share that part.
And I guess I'm scared too. Okay. My mother was arrested 26 times. She didn't like going to jail, but it just happens like that. She was on the Pettis Bridge when they had the violence there and had the scars on her legs to show it. She was a freedom fighter. I think, this is Maryland, that I think God put on this earth to do what she's done. She taught school for over 40 years, and she looked at her students as diamonds. She believed that every kid could learn if we would only take time to teach them. We formed a Clara Luther Legacy Committee because I thought, and our students thought, and the citizens thought, that it would be important to have our story told from generation to generation, in spite of anything else, because it would encourage others to do the same. She would say all the time, she graduated in the top 5 of her class, but it was only 5 people in her class. She was from Ovusky County, Hoffman, Oklahoma. But she dreamed dreams. And she would tell us all the time, I want you to go places that I've never been. And I want you to dream dreams I never dreamed. And we say that all the time because we know that it's a vast world out there. And we haven't touched the surface of it. And I want to encourage you to dream big, to dream dreams, and go places that none of us have ever been. And that's going to be having to go some.
Okay, I want to go for the skies here. What are your names? I'm sorry. You're Chandler, and you are? Brett, come on out here. Looks like Dad would like to say one more thing.
Yeah, there's a song that you may not have been familiar with called Freedom Walk. It's sung by Bobby Darin. And if my mind doesn't fail me, it goes one of the verses goes something like this. Hear me, Mr. Black Man, if you're listening. I don't want your diamonds or your games. I just want to be someone known to you as me, and treated just the same. Something like
Looking at Joyce. Joyce? Yes.
Oh, which one?
Sorry, they're both Joyce's. Joyce Henderson.
that.
She is the song leader, and we'd like to end our presentation. That these guys will be around afterwards for questions because we need to get through them all. But we'd like to end with Joyce. Come on up, Joyce.
It's amazing when I look at the film, I had black hair. And look at me now, so I can tell you I don't have the voice I had then. But we like to end with "We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome today." Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. And what I would like for you to do is just stand, if you don't mind. And I don't know with COVID if you can hold, you don't need to hold hands, but if you just kind of sway from side to side and join with me and sing "We Shall Overcome." But right now, let's just move to get the energy in this room. The words are simple enough, just move from side to side. Together with my hand. I see some do it a little faster. I'm a teacher, so follow my instructions. We shall overcome. 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 We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe. I do believe we shall overcome. We shall overcome someday, someday. Thank you all. We love you.
What an incredible story. Thank you for bringing it to campus. Thank you for joining us tonight. It was really an honor to have you on our campus today. Things like this are put on by the USAO Foundation. So if you like programming like this, get online, usao.edu/give. Also, for the students in the room, this is also covered by your student fees. So when you pay those fees to the business office, these are the kinds of programs that we can provide to you. And additionally, register to vote. This year is an election year. It's important. There's a lot of things on the ballot. Register to vote. Ask your roommates if you're registered. Ask your neighbors if they're registered. Help people get to the polls. We appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Now let's give them another round of applause.